to meet. Anyway, we've got a young man in here that we're going to bring in now, add him to the show. Jason, how are you, sir?
David, I'm doing well. Thank you. I was watching a bit of your report in the back room. That looks very interesting.
Well, tell me, like, what's going on in Maui? What's your? I mean, I don't know how far you are down the rabbit hole, Jason. So tell me, what do you think? What's going on there?
To me, I mean, as David Icke would say, give it enough time, the truth will come out. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that this group we're dealing with do want a home away from everybody else. So if you're going to execute the Great Reset, and it's going to cause so much misery and pain, there's no way the people organizing it can live in any land where the slave class can physically get a hold of them. So obviously they're probably trying to stake out a claim in different parts of the world, which is going to sort of be their area. And if you see further encroachments on Hawaii and further attacks on Hawaii and sort of telling people eventually that they have to leave because it's too dangerous, because the climate's too dangerous there, I would bet my money in Las Vegas that the ruling group is trying to sequester that land as their own, and this might be the headquarters. It is known in sort of shamanistic belief systems as the heart of the earth as well.
So, Jason, we'll get into the sort of meat and potatoes shortly. Just one of our supporters recommended you as a very interesting person to come on the show. UNN is one of the most watched alt news networks in the UK. So we're always delighted to hear different people's opinions. So, am I right in saying you're a Canadian currently living in Mexico? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, David.
Okay,
correct.
Okay, and they've not found out yet.
They know there'll be some people escaping. They're not really concerned with that very small minority who can escape. They have their eyes on the larger majority.
Yeah, and it's interesting because quite a lot of people have actually moved to Mexico now. I think Max Egan is in Mexico, and how do you find it as a country, Jason?
I find it very safe. I find the food very good. I mean, I'm in a city in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, on the west coast, so it's a developed area. You have all your first world amenities here, and basically, the big thing about Mexico is about 70% of the population does not have a bank account. So whatever they're trying to do to the developed world will be very slow to roll out here because the infrastructure for an electronic control grid is still in its infancy in Mexico.
Wow. That's very interesting. And what is that? Is that in Sinaloa, Puerto Vallarta? Is that Sinaloa?
It's a little south from the Sinaloa area of Mazatlan. And
Mazatlan, right?
Yeah, Sinaloa is famous for the first words, the Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah. Well, it's the only reason I actually know is because I recently watched the El Chapo series, which was very interesting. And is there a lot of crime there, Jason? Is it scary?
No, there's like no crime here in Puerto Vallarta. There's more crime in Toronto, Ontario, Canada than here per capita, but you don't hear about that. And the news stations are very clever in all the countries. It's not just Canada. This is part of their playbook. We have a very old ruling group, and they have a very old playbook, and they control the media in all the different countries. And they will always say, hey, other places are really bad. Your country's great. And you're really safe where you are. And it's like the Truman Show. They don't want you leaving the island. So it doesn't matter if you're in the UK or you're in Canada or the US, the media will always say, don't leave. Like, this is your best bet. And there's reasons behind that. They don't like to lose their stock of cattle. They consider all the humans property or stock. Chattel on their loans and their obligations to the economic system that rules us all.
So is there cartel violence though? Does cartel violence break out?
No, not this. Port of Art is more of a senior community of about 700,000
Okay,
people. It's a
okay.
senior retirement tropical paradise. And what you'll see is that when you'll have cartel sort of violence at times, it's usually cartel against cartel, not
Hmm.
cartel against innocent people. But it
Yeah,
will be in the areas where the foreigners want their drugs.
like
Uh,
Tijuana and places like that up in
well,
near the
Tijuana
border.
is where you're going to get the smuggling, and
Hmm.
again, it's more. If the people in North America didn't want to escape their dark realities, there would be no
Yeah,
call for
that's
the
a great
drugs.
point.
So, yeah, this is like it's not Mexico forcing drugs into North America. It's everybody in North America is absolutely miserable. They want to sedate to their miserable reality, and narcotics is their number one go-to to decorate the jail cell where they live. And this is the big problem, is that
Yeah,
the living conditions are so miserable in North America that you have every addiction under the sun that's just sort of catered to
yeah.
by various groups in the world.
It is very interesting because again, I had Max Egan on and I said to him about the cartels. What's the difference between them and Big Pharma? And he said, "Well, the cartels don't make you take their product, whereas the Big Pharma complex makes. I mean, they make you take their product. I mean, certainly during COVID, that was they made you do that. And it's interesting that you point that out. Is like if people were healthy and fit and in a good place mentally, no one would be taking fentanyl. No one would be taking crystal meth, would they?
Absolutely. And this is like an old playbook, although it looks like the OxyContin, and that's another Netflix special you can watch, or the cocaine or El Chapo. This group we're dealing with, this is a very old group, and they took over, say, China in the opium wars in the late 1700s. And if you go to a documentary called The Clinton Chronicles,
Hmm.
there are employees and other lawyers that worked in Bill Clinton's law office in Little Rock, Arkansas. His name is Nichols. And he testifies during the Clinton Chronicles, the documentary, that Bill Clinton was running a huge cocaine cartel out of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wow.
And this group is famous for these sleights of hand. They need the profit to run their black ops operations. And they also weaken the public as a side benefit, because a weak public is more compliant to mind control. A drugged mind, under all CIA research, is more compliant to the basic modalities of mind control. So not only do they extract profit to drive their black ops, they weaken the population, which means they're more apt to fall for the liarrhea-based propaganda that rips across their TV screens.
It is interesting you say that because where I am in the west of Scotland, you have quite a large heroin problem, and I used to think, well, where are all these like drug addicts who used to roam the streets? What? Why are they all? Why are they all in their houses? Why aren't they out? And they all complied with it, and that's very very interesting. So Jason, let's get into the sort of the meat and potatoes then. Why are you here now doing what you're doing? What is your background and what led you to this place and this worldview that you have now?
Well, basically, I used to be a very high-end exercise and diet coach, and I found my clients were afraid to get in good shape. They would pay me large amounts of money. They might need to lose 50 pounds. One might need to lose 30 pounds. And they get to the 10-pound mark, and then they were terrified. It's like they saw a ghost. And they would run back to their old habits, and it was a very unsatisfying situation. They would pay me large amounts of money. I couldn't get them where they wanted to go. They were embarrassed because they didn't achieve their goal. So I started investigating mind control, propaganda, behavior modification, and I started to mind control my health clients, absent of diet and exercise regimes, to become comfortable being their best in a society of mediocrity. And it was the only thing that worked. It was the only thing to break their spell. So I went on to open a school, sort of like a psychological reprogramming institute, where I teach medical doctors, chiropractors, exercise coaches, and members of the general public how to use mind control to either change the psyche of your patient or to change your own psyche so that you can sidestep all these liar propaganda-based attacks that get fired at us out of the top of the corrupt ruling pyramid.
Jason, why do you think obesity is such an epidemic? And it is a huge, I mean, especially in North America, but even here now in the UK. And I always, it's interesting about the last 10 pounds. I always say that like some people are prone to put on a bit of extra. I mean, you might disagree with me, but some people are prone to put on a bit of extra weight. I know that I've been quite good recently though, and not be at peak fitness or whatever, but that for a lot of people now, it's not just a few extra pounds, it's a few extra stones. And I was away on holiday in Spain, and the amount of young women that I saw in like their 20s who really like had cellulite. I mean, this has just exploded. What is the biggest cause of all the excess weight that people have now, in your opinion?
Well, the biggest sort of physiological cause are poisons. So when the body's poisoned, it has a reaction. One of the reactions to poison is that your body's going to do a hormonal shift to something that's more high estrogen and water retention based, because the best solution for pollution is dilution. Your body knows that if you're toxic, the bigger you are, the safer you are. But saying that, the people who rule us also know this. They know if they poison you, you're weaker. They know if you're weaker, you're more compliant to mind control. And this is why they poison absolutely everything that you'll ever come into contact with if you don't know how this system works. Like Teflon pans, if you want to know how toxic they are, go to YouTube and watch the documentary called The Devil We Know. Everything from Teflon pans to microwaving your food. When they did experiments with microwave food, someone who would eat microwave food had the same immune blood markers after drawing their blood as someone that was outright poisoned. Everything they endorse, they from pesticides, the pesticides aren't for the bugs. You're the bug. You're the pest. Mm-hmm. You're the pest they're trying to target. I mean, who in their right mind would think it was a good, rational, and logical idea to spray poison on the foods that we consume as humans? And then they use the mind control and the brainwashing to normalize all that. So it doesn't matter if you get up and have a takeout cup of coffee. The inner lining of takeout coffee cups has a plastic sort of estrogen-based coating made of BPA, a sort of a estrogen-based compound that interferes with fertility. It puts on weight gain. It leads to hormonal and behavior problems. Your water inside the coffee itself has chlorine, maybe even fluoride in it. And a lot of people don't know that. Say you have an average person that's on a statin drug, which is an anti-cholesterol drug, or someone that's on the birth control pill, or someone that just took an Advil or a Tylenol. 90% of that toxic compound isn't digested by your body. You pee and poop it out. And there's no water treatment plant in the entire world that can actually take out all those toxins, all the medication residue. So think about the tap waters of these highly industrialized cities and how many people there are ripped up on these toxic medications that their water treatment plants can't remove. And those toxins get recycled over and over again in the beer water, in the soup can, in the coffee, in the tea, and the juices. People have no idea that this is all done purposely. And then they normalize it using, the propaganda and brainwashing pathways to make you think this is normal, because there is a part of your brain that's always trying to find the normal, and it finds the normal through something called repetitive content download. The most repetitive content download gets sort of upregulated and cheered as the normal. And then once that's established, your body actually wants you to seek the normal in an attempt to fit in with the normal. So our behavior can be really controlled and modified by what's in the newspaper, what's in the magazines, what's on the radio, what's in your movies, what's in your TV shows. What they do is they hack this part of the brain by upregulating the repetitive content they want you to see. And if you have time, David, I'll just give you a couple examples if you want to hear how powerful this effect is.
No, this is really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's really powerful. So let's take a real life example, because people are like, well, I think I know what you're talking about, but can you give me an example? Okay, in 2001, there was a movie called Gone in 60 Seconds with Angelina Jolie and Nicolas Cage. It was a movie about car theft, you know, big Hollywood production. There was a local thug going to kill Nick Cage's brother, and he was going out with Angelina Jolie. But the thug said, I won't kill your brother, Nicolas Cage, if you go out and steal 100 cars for me tonight. So this is the premise of the movie. So there's a lot of repetitive car theft images ripping through on the screen. Now, this part of the brain that this ruling group targets, they know that this part of the brain does not know the difference between real time, imagined thought, and what's on the screen. It's just looking for repetitive content. And it does that because it loves you, and it knows that, hey, the repetitive content will reflect what the bigger herd is saying, thinking, or doing. And my love is what's driving the whole process. You're going to get all the repetitive content down and mimic it to fit in. So when this movie came out, pretend you're in the cinema, basically your brain, your subconscious mind thinks you're in a car theft tribe. And obviously, if you participate in car theft, you're going to be more accepted into the tribe. So this is what happened when this movie came out in, say, Burnaby, BC, Canada. Car theft went up 70% in the first 4 days alone.
Wow.
And then other dispatch offices of various police stations where, you know, we talk about various things over the upcoming weeks, and someone would say, hey, you know, car theft is ripping up around Canada here. And someone said, hey, do you got that movie Gone in 60 Seconds playing over in your town? And they're like, yeah, that's weird. So Dr. Jerry Croth from Santa Clara University, a psychology professor, recounted this in his online presentation called Propaganda. If anybody wants to see how powerful this is, the people who rule us have a saying: what's on the screen at noon will be on the street at night. So if they want you to be overweight, full of cellulite, drinking beer, this is one of their famous modalities of attack, or alcohol. Their most favorite attack is caffeine. They will make sure to give you that repetitive content, and every single thing you're going to view or hear, but you consciously can't really see it. You're not picking it up, but your subconscious mind pathway is vigorously writing down the repetitive content inside this loving process that documents the repetitive content so that you can act it out outside your conscious awareness in order to fit into the bigger group, because it thinks, hey, look, if you're in the bigger group, you're just safer. So this process is based on love and protection. The people who rule us know this, and they hijack it, they hotwire it.
Look at the one thing very much comes to mind. I don't want to overly talk about COVID because we've kind of done that to death, I think, but there was the BLM riots that took place with George Floyd. You know, that was just after the sort of lockdown started to end, and they showed the imagery. They just constantly showed the kneeling on the neck and showed it everywhere, and then the riots and the way that spread, and you know, then it was mostly peaceful, and riots that was incredible the way. And again, it spread across the world. It was here, it was in all other countries, and as you quite rightly point out, they know exactly what they're doing, and if you just repeat something enough and show it something to people enough, they'll do what they're told.
Yeah, there'll be this part of the brain triggers you to do it outside your conscious awareness. Like even when the there was a Netflix show, a film called The Queen's Gambit. This was a movie about an alcoholic pill popping chess player. Just punch that into Google and you'll see that when this Queen's Gambit movie came out about chess playing, chess sales went up thousands of % on Amazon. You could look at the Macarena dance. You could look at the movie Fast and the Furious. When this came out, everybody wanted a Honda Civic. Everybody wanted a big, wide, loud muffler. People wanted lights under their cars. People were drag racing. Tokyo Drift came out. Then the drag racers are drifting around traffic circles and the roundabout, as you call in the UK. And they know that they can make us do absolutely anything. And group pressure is about what I just talked about. It's about identifying what the group is doing, the bigger group, and mimicking. And the repetitive content of the group has a huge impact. You UK residents have a master mind control expert and entertainment expert by the name of Darren Brown. And he made a Netflix special called The Push. Now, it was called The Push for a reason. And it is frankly unbelievable to watch. And I'll send you a copy. Maybe you can put it in your show notes. Darren Brown took a very long time. He probably had a cast of 150 people who are all actors. And he wanted to demonstrate the power of group pressure. So they developed about a 3-hour stint where they would take one person who wasn't the actor. And now they were handpicked to be more the compliant, weak, go along to get along type. But regardless, they pick one victim, put it into this fabricated scenario, 3 hours long, 150 actors working the group pressure and all the mind control tactics that are people who rule us use against us. The end of the show, oddly enough, now hang on, because this gets weird and scary. The end of the show, culminates where the group and the victim are on the roof of a 15-story building. And I won't tell you how they got there, but there was a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress. There were some bad things going to happen. That's what the scenario was there to, accelerate, that there was going to be a big problem if action wasn't taken. There was a man, an actor, a stunt man on the edge, on the precipice of the building.
That's right. I remember it. Yeah.
And in order for the victim, the person who didn't know this was a hack, to relieve the group pressure and bond with the group, they were asked to go push that guy off the side of a building. And they ran the scenario 4 times with 4 different people. 3 out of, the man was fully harnessed in a body harness. So when he was pushed, he would swing under the precipice. You could not see him fall sort of down. 3 out of the 4 people, David, killed that man live on video. And now if they can make 3 out of 4 people commit murder on video with mind control, brainwashing, group pressure tactics that, say, the UK's nudge unit was using against the public, imagine what the government and the media can do to you over your entire life. They got a lot longer than 3 hours, and they've been working your repetitive content since you sat in front of a TV watching cartoons as a kid. And that's why everybody's in a lot of trouble today.
Yeah. No, it's
You there, David?
It really is. It's such interesting stuff, Jason. Yeah, I'm there. It's just a wee bit of the internet. I'm just saying it's such interesting stuff. And I often say this, they talk about our NHS, especially over here, about the wonders. People have never been sicker. They've never been more depressed. They've never been more overweight. So it just shows you the front of these people that they can do it. So, Jason, I do have one question. Who is they? that they're talking about? Because there are a few different interpretations of they.
Well, it depends how far back in history you want to go. If you go to a documentary called The Ring of Power, you will see that your UK royals are ancient genetic heritage bloodlines to royal pharaonic bloodlines. And this pharaonic bloodline, this is where the G comes from in the Freemasonic orders symbol, the G. I'm not too sure people are aware of the Freemasons' primary symbol of the square and compass with a G in the middle. And the G stands for the Gaionium. Gaionium is an ancient class of Egyptian priests that would work this sort of repetitive magic and poisoning of the slave class to make them do their bidding. And someone might say, hey, look, there was no magazines back in Egypt. I got you. There's no TV or movies. I got you. Can't be true. Well, that's why they would have the raised platforms, the public square. And yes, there was a control of the repetitive content through the announcements that the squires, the town squires, would roll into the public square once a day and drown the public in the same repetitive content to control their thoughts, their behaviors, and their perception. So they are old ruling families that you can trace them to Egypt, pharaonic bloodlines, and then you can go farther back to Babylonia, Samaria. But regardless, if you come up to today's group, they use the exact same tactics. They have a 1-2 punch. They use repetition-based mind control, and they use poison. That's their only two weapons that they use, because a poisoned and toxic public or toxic brain has been proven easier to hack through the group pressure, easier to hack through the repetition-based mind control. And you just sort of, when someone's poisoned, they have a completely different brain function than someone that's healthy. And that unhealthy brain function, which is more slanted inside what's called the limbic system, the fight or flight system, that has a very low IQ. It doesn't have the ability to judge long-term consequences. And when you're going to control a population, you want their fight or flight system on. And poison does a really good job, but so does media-based fear as well.
Do you think pornography is part of poison, Jason? Is pornography a part of that?
Yeah, and they work on different levels. When you're watching pornography, there's a part of your brain that's the smartest part. So there are parts of the brain that's like lower IQ and higher IQ. The higher IQ part is called the prefrontal cortex or the frontal lobe. Just picture it as just behind your forehead. When you watch porn and put someone up to a measurement device of electrical conductivity in the brain complex, when you're watching pornography, you have very low conductivity or electrical flow in the prefrontal cortex and blood flow. And if it's there too much, you can get brain damage because you're not feeding that part of the brain.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
This stuff's so interesting. Jason, thank you to the Reverend James. We were talking about the direct energy weapons earlier on. I had on a guest a few nights ago, and she was an OnlyFans model, and she now has like 48 double G silicone fake breasts, and we had a very good conversation, and just like recognizing that the toxicity, and as you point out, the poison that we are given to be controlled, because it's brilliant the way you actually lay it all out on the table, because we need to think of these things. It's not that they're poisons that we're given, it's poisons that they are giving to us on purpose.
Yeah, and that's one of their other things. They know not to make themselves seen. So, like, if they know that showing up on someone's lawn, holding them down, and making them drink alcohol or smoke marijuana or watch Netflix or cut open their chest muscles and put silicone underneath, they know that that's off limits. Because when the human animal can perceive and physically observe their enemy attacking, it's lights out.
Check there.
So they know what they want to do. They would sit in their, Dave, you still there? Are we losing you? I'll just keep talking in case I still get recorded. But they know that the key here is you attacking yourself, or you euthanizing yourself, or you investing your time and money into hurting yourself, because then they get accomplished what they want to accomplish. And you don't understand that you're getting psychologically manipulated to do what they wanted to do, but it's by your own hand. And it would really sort of basically confuse people as to what's really going on. No one would ever believe they could. Are you back, David? That's great.
It's just a Wi-Fi thing. We're fine though.
Yeah. So most people would never believe that they could be tricked to destroy, euthanize, and remove themselves. So it's sort of the ultimate way. That's what they call it, the 5th generation warfare.
Yeah.
Because the group we're dealing with, they know, like say the London bombing, they know, hey, all the buildings we wanted, all the nice houses we wanted, all the cars we wanted, they're blown up. This isn't working for us anymore. Like this invading and stealing other people's resources only works if the resources are there in their whole form, the theft. So 5th generation warfare is about using the psychological manipulation, controlling the repetitive content, and then making the people on the domestic population euthanize and kill themselves, so that there's no one really left to resist when you walk right on it. You walk in and saying, you're going to own nothing and be happy. I'm just going to take your house, your gold, your silver, your diamond ring, and your car. And what are you going to do about it? Because most people are laid to waste on the roads. They're literally dying on the roads, dying in their cars, dying on the way to work.
Do you think, Jason, and it is interesting you talk about this, the estrogen levels, because I see this now everywhere. Men have become so feminized, and you've got the whole trans agenda as well. Do you think this is part of the depopulation agenda, because sperm counts, fertility rates are at genocidal levels? And Jason, and I'm not going to beat about the bush, why is this designed specifically at white European populations? Because that's where it is being hit hardest. It is happening in South Korea, it is happening in Japan, but it does appear to be white European nations. Have you got any idea of why that is?
Absolutely, because this is about theft. It's always been about theft. They've rolled this out many times before in history and covered their tracks by controlling the history books. This is about theft because this is their legal system. You'll see that will not change too much. Basically, let's say this. They trick me. They wouldn't, but let's do a hypothetical. They trick me to go to the clinic and take my shot. I pass away. They trick my wife or girlfriend to do the same. They pass away. And now there's no parents. So my wealth, millions of dollars, is bequeathed to my daughter. Now they convince my daughter that she should change her gender, which means she can't reproduce. So they're going to give her castration chemicals or do surgeries that leave her infertile. So she has millions of my dollars. And then if they also convince her to do that and then take her shot and then she passes away, I'm not too sure if people are aware that the legal statutes that are on the book to this day means that money goes to the state. So that's why they're targeting the white Anglo strongholds of the past, because they have the most wealth. And this is about theft through cauterization of the gene line. They want to cauterize the gene lines so that inheritable wealth goes to the state which is the ancient pharaonic lines. And they've done this multiple times. They know how this goes. That's why you're born and someone's like a trillionaire. And you're like, how did they become a trillionaire? Trace it back. This group allows humans to accumulate wealth and then culls the herd, similar to a butcher culling a cattle herd. Profit is only realized if you go to the supermarket. Everything in your supermarket that you're buying, the profit is only realized upon death. These people are ancient human farmers where the profit is only realized upon death. That's why everything's death-centric. It's a death-centric black magic cult.
Central banking is very much caught up in that as well, I take it. The ability to just create money out of thin air and steal money from the everyday populace without them knowing about it.
And that's a form of black magic. If I can steal your money while it sits in the bank, how good of a magician am I? You might think I'm Harry Potter, but printing money out of thin air steals the wealth from the money that's held in bank accounts or under mattresses that everybody has. So these are all magic tricks where they're stealing things invisibly from you, stealing your wealth. If anybody has gone to the clinic to belly up and take the new medicine, they've also have their health stolen in what's called an etheric way, which is an electrical way, which in electricity is invisible. These people work in the invisible because the pharaonic lines know that magic is real. And printing money out of nowhere to make your $100 bill worth $10 is an act of black magic.
So, Jason, what can we do? How can we fight back against this?
It's so easy, and everybody can do it. First of all, you see their weaknesses. Their weaknesses are, if they were strong and had the power to do this by force, they wouldn't need to psychologically manipulate you to do it to yourself. Do you not see their weakness? Mm-hmm. They don't have the power to do it by force. They have to trick you to do it. And tricking you to do it is based on their 1-2 punch. Psychological manipulation through repetitive content through your screens and poisoning. And then when you get exposed to that, your power, which is another invisible etheric compound, is vaporized and it leaves you. And that's why they say you're powerful. The government appears powerful. They have your power, not theirs. And they're in charge. These are all electrical terms, in charge power. And they're good at stealing it invisibly. You have to start building your own power inside of yourself on the invisible level if you want to have your energy. And your most powerful magic spell that you can cast is the word no. And no is actually the word on spelled backwards, another electrical term, turn the lights on. So when you give your no, instead of giving your yes, anybody that complied with their own bankrupting their own economy, putting masks on and just destroying their brain function, they used their yes when they should have used their no. And they used their no because they were powerless, because they didn't realize this. No one's born powerless. It's something you have inside of you, something electric, something what they call etheric. It has to be siphoned away from you over time through poisoning, mental beatdown, demoralization, where you don't have any fight to resist. So it's time to put the fight back inside of yourself, put the power back inside of yourself, and everybody can do this. And that's what I teach. I teach people how to reinvigorate and refire and take back their morality, their ethics, their self-respect. These are real things. These are not flowery words that get you pumped up. Self-respect is an etheric compound. Self-confidence, self-love, self-esteem. If someone tells you to shut your business and bankrupt yourself using ancient black magic, psychological manipulations, tricking you to wreck your own economy so that they can get the benefit, You have to use your no. You have to be strong enough, and you're going to be made uncomfortable. You're going to be challenged. And if you're strong, you're up for the challenge. But if you're part of this group, what I call proteins, professional lifelong teenagers, where you have the inner strength of a 12-year-old boy who hasn't hit puberty yet, you will give your yes when you should give your no. And the biggest step, the easiest step to regain your power or your charge is stop sticking poison in your own mouth. Now, I know that's easier said than done, because the subconscious, counting the repetition, sees every single person in magazines and movies and TV shows sticking poison in their mouth. And they've normalized obesity and they normalized sickness. So your subconscious mind is already telling you, hey, Judy, hey, Phil, the bigger herd of mediocrity and the slave herd is the safer herd to go to. There's a lot more people in the slave herd. And that's where my white magic mind control comes in, where I'll brainwash you and I'm going to hotwire your subconscious to make it believe that the healthy, abundant, and happy tribe is the bigger tribe. And your subconscious will make you join that and drag you toward that better tribe. And I'm going to use their technology against them. You have two choices. They control the repetitive content that goes in your eyes, and you become an absolute disempowered human mess. Or you can control it to become a fully functional adult who's strong enough to use their no when required. Those are your only two choices. There is no door number 3. So make your choice. And being healthy is hard, but being overweight is hard too. And wealth doesn't make you happy, but neither does poverty. And drinking water is hard, but drinking alcohol every Friday night is hard too, because you have a miserable job. Pick your hard and get to work. That's my advice.
So do you recommend no alcohol, no caffeine at all, Jason?
Well, basically, if you want to scare people away, like I don't do alcohol. I quit drinking alcohol maybe 10 years ago. But the thing is, it's about progress, not perfection. And don't forget, the people who are attacking you own Brofman, they own Guinness, they own all your favorite sports teams, they own all the distraction, all the sedation, all the narcotics, all the TV programs, all the movies. Even if everybody listening to this cut their consumption of poison by half, not only would they get half their power back, you'd have half the profit toward the companies that are there to destroy you and your family. So do yourself a favor, do your wife a favor, do your husband a favor, do your kids a favor, do your community a favor, and stop using your face as a battering ram and your mouth as a toilet, and start fighting the system tomorrow when you get up from bed.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Jason, a lot of the stuff you're talking about, can I just say thanks to Pand, David, Gillian, and John for chipping in whilst we're on the show. Most of our audience are quite switched on. Okay, we've been going now for 5 years. We were against lockdowns, and then we fully saw through the scam pretty early on, and our eyes are always being opened on a continual basis. I don't know everything. I'm always learning. But I think what you're talking about is excellent advice, because you're never going to nail this perfectly. You're never going to get it. It's like you can't go around a golf course and hit 18 holes in one. You can't go out on a football pitch and score 10 goals. So it is about the game and doing that. And it is recognizing what is an unhealthy habit and what doesn't make you happy, and realize that everything that you're being given from on high, which is sugar-based crack cocaine, which is social media as well, is it's wrong. And it's about weaning yourself off, or even just realizing that it is I think it's the first step to solving a problem, recognizing you have one. And we're not going to be perfect, but if sobriety of mind, and I know it from a personal, when I shy, I feel shy. I do. Whereas when I try and eat better and eat healthier, I feel better. And it is just this I mean, it's and again, as you pointed out, in the modern world, it is tough. And like recently, one of the big things I've done, and I mean, it's not perfect, but I've started having cold showers, and I just find that absolutely fantastic because it's so invigorating, or jumping in the sea, and it's just wee things like that. It can help because listen, if we don't do something, the propaganda, what they are doing to us, you would be on drugs or suicidal, which sadly a lot of people are because of what they've done.
Yeah, and a lot of people that are on the drugs or alcoholics, they think there's something wrong with them. That's the unfortunate part. But if you watch film and you watch TV and you went to the government slave indoctrination camp for 14 years, where you learned that you had to say yes to everything that you hated, of course you're going to be a mess. But with that mess, the average person has to know you're working as designed. You have a loving part of your brain that mimics the most repetitive content of your environment. They're controlling the content to make you a mess. Therefore, you are a mess. Therefore, you're operating as designed. So start hacking and hot wiring your internal perfection by controlling your repetitive content. I don't watch TV unless I'm doing a movie review. I'm not famous for my movie reviews, but people seem to love them because I look for the huge mind control content. But podcasts that are positive, you have to listen to, watch interviews that are positive. Even if someone wants to be wealthy, forget about every other content. You want to be wealthy? Listen to wealth-based content for every night for about 2 hours for the next 3 months, and tell me you're not way farther ahead on your wealth goals. Maybe you want better relationship with your wife, or your husband. You want marriage stability. Listen to marriage stability content 2 hours a night or 2 hours a day for the next 3 months, and trust me, these are your only choices. And don't turn on the radio on the way to work, because you're wasting your time.
This is I say this to people. This is the problem for me. Is my job is to every single day watch the MSM. I have to go to the BBC, the Guardian, the Daily Mail, and sift through all that propaganda every single day. And you do need and I think, even as I always say, you can watch these things, but you have to recognize that it's spreading a level of propaganda. And, as long as you kind of can be removed from that, whereas if you are, and I know this is a cringe way of saying it, but if you are fully plugged into the matrix, you can't fully, what's the word?
Comprehend what's going on.
Comprehend. No, you can't. You don't. Whereas now, like everything is being, and I think people kind of get that. And look, as I always say as well, like, what makes you happy makes you happy. Maybe, like, I mean, some people, like, as I said, I love food. I still love food, but it's trying to have as healthy a relationship with it as you can, and not eat those matchmakers. You ever get matchmakers? Or do you eat chocolate, Jason? Do you eat chocolate?
If it's around, I'll have a little bit of it, but it's rarely around.
Yeah. Well, is it nice fresh fruit in Mexico?
A fresh fruit is everywhere, and I mean, there's things I love too. I mean, I used to be a master saboteur myself. I used to like cocaine. I used to like alcohol. I used to like fast women and fast cars. But there's no it's just a self-centered benefit. It's a child-based benefit. The benefit is only to me, and then me being at my weakest self means someone else somewhere has to be stronger for the society to maintain itself. So me being self-centered and pleasure-based and addicted to self-gratification, I'm chipping away at the societal foundation that we all need to be our best. And then once that's gone, only evil comes riding in, which is what's happening right now. Because everybody's like, I'll take care of myself. I'll do what's fun for myself. I'll do what I love. I don't ride porn because I don't want even if I don't ride porn for a day, I bet there's $4 less in advertising revenue to the porn site that trickles down to the porn stars. So I consider it my personal responsibility not to give money to Seagram's, not to give money to Guinness, not to give money to Labatt or Molson, and not to ride the porn, because I'm going to do my part in making the world a better place. I'm going to cut off the funds to them. My funds they're not going to get. They're not going to get my energy either. They're not going to get my scrolling. They're not going to get my orgasm energy from the pornography. They're not getting my energy.
This is good stuff, Jason, because one of the things I do have a slight issue with some of the freedom movement stuff is rank individualism isn't healthy either, because you can't live your life as an individual. You are part of a society. And, I look around at Western society and I go into cities and I see it, and it's unhealthy. Now, I have to take steps to protect myself, but that doesn't mean I always say this, I don't know how people I don't know how you can enjoy all your wealth when you're walking over people starving outside you. And that's where I think as well things have really gone so wrong, is the people, and I know the people you're talking about, but even once upon a time, people who were successful, they would build a park. Where I stay, people who were rich would have built parks. They built public toilets. They created nice places for people to go, like botanical gardens, for example, where people could go and they could see plants from the other side of the world, healthy things. Whereas now they're just like, oh, well, I'll go and buy a super yacht, or I'll go and drive a Bugatti. I'm not a big fan of Andrew Tate, because I think that's quite a toxic level of stuff. I what a lot of he says does resonate with people, but I still think it is because you're being defined by women and materialism, and as you'll recognize, Jason, material pleasures will never bring you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting better things and a better life, but it'll never bring you the happiness that you want.
And you're stepping over people in this world because of the government school system and the disempowering media and the Marxist philosophy that riddles our education and media system, where everybody wants to crawl back into the womb and have someone else pay their bills and someone else lodge them and someone else pay for all their food and take care of them. So what I do is I try to get as wealthy as I can, so that when I'm stepping over that poor person, I put my hand down and say, come to the seminar that I'm having on this day online, get on my email system, and I'll show you how to make your life better, because there's nothing wrong with you. You're just being beaten down because the system is designed to steal your power, make you miserable, and then, enter the narcotic stage left, which they smuggle in all the time for the slave class to disempower us even more, and tell us that's the best we can do is be miserable and drug ourselves to death from the man in the white butcher coat or the guy in the black coat on the corner selling narcotics. And this is how our society is set up. And I fight it tooth and nail, giving out free information. Like if anybody wants to email me at Jason at freedomfromselfsabotage.com, in the subject line, just put help. Just put help. And my assistant or myself will say, what do you need help with? You drugs, alcohol, and we'll either give you an option for a program, or we'll put you on my email list for free, and I'll slow drip you a free information over time that'll always make your life better. So I'm into helping people up for free. I got two main paid programs, but if you don't want to come, that's fine. But eventually you might. But if you don't, you can just feed off the free information. It's more valuable than half the info given out in the world.
And I'm not. I mean, you and I have just been emailing each other, Jason, and the stuff that you do for $100. It's not really that bad at all. It's very good value considering the money people spend on pornography, webcams, all these. I mean, it's just such unhealthy on mainstream media, and it is just getting people out and thinking, and I often say this to people, stop funding the mainstream media. Like I actually stopped going. I mean, not that I've kind of bothered with it, but the football, which you guys would call soccer, because they all started taking a knee, for BLM, and I'm like, I'm not supporting this. I'm not supporting cultural. I'm not supporting cultural Marxism. I don't want to give them any money, and I feel better for it. And it's the same way, like, and I really like what you said about it being progressive. Like, nobody has to, you know, my other experience in life is if you go from one extreme to the other too quickly, you'll just revert back again. And addicts tend to do that, as they go from one extreme to the other. And it has to be healthy, and it has to be a progress. And as you point out, it's what you do that you know is wrong, and to try not to do it as much, because you know it's self-defeating and it is bad for society. Do you think ever, Jason, we'll be able to have these conversations at a level? Will we ever be able to be in charge and say to people, look, we want you to be healthy, we want you to live a vibrant, fulfilling, fruitful life?
Absolutely. We can get there. We get there slowly. I mean, it's about progress, not perfection. Like you said, if you rip the Band-Aid off, people will have some trouble. As Max Egan would say, I mean, we can't go without government at this point, because so many people need the handrails of life and need the bubble wrap of life, that if you gave them full responsibility or full sovereignty over their entire life results, they'd have a full mental breakdown. So we really need to go at this on a stepped approach and get rid of the government 1 year at a time, shrink the government, take our money back. I mean, they're not taking our money to build the roads, if you haven't noticed. They're taking our money to build the e-prison around us, to the point where, they might take half your money right now to build the e-prison, but if they get that final link in the chink in the fence sealed up, they're going to take all your money. And that's where the phrase "you'll own nothing and be happy" is from. So we have to be very careful, is that they've been taxing us not for the reason they said, but they've been paying people off and building this e-prison around us. So we literally have to make sure they stop taking our money, or we're going to be
people are seeing that, Jason. You're right. People are seeing that, especially over this Ukraine scam and the climate scam. There's so much on social media that, well, look at San Francisco, yet we're sending billions to Ukraine. Look at Maui. Obviously, we're talking about that, and people see that. The same with the climate scam. They see that, well, we're giving all this money and it's not doing anything so steadily. And I say that what I try and do every day is, I don't think I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like the Pied Piper and have millions of people behind me. But if you can have one or two and just steadily, and people just saying, well, I'm not paying for this. And then people start thinking, well, why should I pay, as you say, towards the government? And eventually they will implode. These systems will implode, because they're not held together by much. Like, look at the state of the police now. Are you scared of the police in Canada, Jason? Are they fit and healthy people? Are you scared of the military now? And look at the state of me. Britain used to have the best military in the world. Even when we were a small, we still had the military in this country. Now are a joke. They've got like men pretending to be women running it. I'm not scared of the police or the military. I mean, there's more of them than us just now, but not for much longer.
Well, this is part of the plan as well. I mean, I would believe if someone decided to be immoral or unethical, I should be able to take care of it. But I would like someone to call if the person were overpower me. But I mean, they don't want our military strong. They want, like in the US and Canada, they wanted everybody to take the jab. Correct. And in Russia and in China, this was not a requirement. We're seeing the dismantling of our male forces too. And I know people in the Ukraine, and they've told me this is just really to get rid of men on both sides of the camp. This is all about depopulation is one thing. Depopulating strong males, strong young males, is another thing 100%. That this ruling group has been masters of. All these wars between the King of France and the King of England, when they're really the same bloodline. It's all about getting rid of men, about getting rid of strong men. So we have this thick maple syrup of beta males now, which puts us in a tremendous amount of problem, a tremendous problem here. because we're open for attack. The barbarians are fortifying their camps on our perimeters, and we're in some real trouble. And again, it can sound like a daunting task, like, oh, I want to find Klaus Schwab. You don't have to find Klaus Schwab. You got to make sure you get up in the morning and stop sticking some healthy food in your mouth and give some food to a farmer who's going to make sure to keep you and your family alive when the chips are down, and take your money back and take your power back and take your charge back.
It's a great point as well about the Ukraine situation, because I'm just appalled, as you say. These are the cream, whereas you see the videos in Ukraine of like Kiev and Odessa, and there's loads of young people there partying. They're not the real men. I mean, these young men are going to these battlefields, dying, thinking that they're fighting for their country, and it's horrific on all sides. Jason, I've taken up way more of your time than I said I would. One of the top interviews that we've done recently. My question is, when are we going to see Jason Christoff grow even bigger? Because I think you should be much bigger than you are, Jason. Although I know from our audience, a lot of people actually know you, and you've got a very loyal following.
Well, I've tried to get the message. I think it's the only solution, is this sort of basic message. I get censored quite a bit, obviously. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm speaking at the Romanian Parliament with the International COVID Summit in November. I spoke at the European Parliament in Belgium in May, and we're trying to organize something in Italy as well. So we're trying to get the message out as fast as possible. But this group, they know repetitive content wins the day, so they try and turn up their liarrhea and turn down our positive our positive messages. So the censorship is all part of the hacking and hacking the subconscious mind by putting the truth right into the gutter so that no one hears it. But we're doing as good a job as we can, and I really appreciate anybody out there that takes personal responsibility and fights the system in their own household, because you can't fight the system when the system lives inside you. You can't fight the system if you eat the system or drink the system. So do your part, and you don't have to do anything but taking control inside your own house.
I mean, I think the one thing, Jason, I need to try and be a bit less racist. The system's making me very racist these days. I'll need to try and not do that. That's what it's making me.
Together for real.
I need to stop it, because I'm only joking. Because my audience like it when I am, but I need to stop it because it's wrong, and I need to love everyone, Jason. I need to be nice to everybody.
We're all in the PSYOP together, so do your part.
Jason, absolutely brilliant stuff. I've put the link to your website and also your Twitter. I do suggest everyone go over there. Jason's got a free email list as well, and everyone can join. Yeah, I've been told to settle down. Yeah, don't worry, guys. Well, I know what I need to do to keep you guys on for. I'm only joking. Jason, listen, absolutely brilliant stuff. Really, really like that, and let's keep in touch, and I'll hopefully have you on again in the future. Okay.
Thank you, David.
Brilliant, Jason. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.